So she had divorced, and in the divorce decree, she had won a house. So she was getting passive income from that, from the rental, right? She was depositing the checks. She wasn't on title, though. So legally, she was still a first-time home buyer. But because we mentioned that fact, I guess the lender at the time that was associated with the broker wasn't qualifying her as a first-time, so she was paying full price. Bank of America happened to be her bank where she was depositing those checks. And in that moment, someone had sold her on the first-time home buying program that they offered. When she had mentioned this to me, my mentor and the lender and the manager were recommending that I tell her not to work with Bank of America because they had a reputation for not closing on time. So they were sparking some fear into me.
Yeah.
So I told her that. And when we finally went under contract,
Yeah. All right. So welcome everybody to another episode of the People's Real Estate Podcast. Today we have a special guest, our great friend, Chris Donis. Chris Donis, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you.
Give us a little intro about yourself. Tell us about yourself.
No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
As you said, my name's Chris. I am with Argent Realty. Been in the business for a couple of years now. Met Renee last year. Joined us. You joined us last year as well, correct?
Yes.
And yeah, just out here doing my best, as every realtor can do.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So tell us how long have you been in real estate, or what got you into real estate?
I back in the day, I used to be an assistant to a broker for Long & Foster, and I want to say I was maybe 2019 or so I wasn't really taking it seriously. I was like,
it was a job.
This is nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Got you.
I always wanted medicine until I pursued medicine, and I was in it for a good long time until I realized it just wasn't for me. So I decided, I don't know, it was during the pandemic, and for some reason it just came to me. I wasn't even brainstorming what other ideas. Real estate just came into my mind. I want to think that the man above put it in my head. Yeah, it just literally one day I just woke up and thought real estate.
Wow.
I talked to my fiance or my husband about it, and he encouraged me. I've never been in sales. I've never
really
had anything. No,
I wouldn't have known that from you.
Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't have any real estate background, nothing like somebody in the family.
Just the assistant, but I was like the assistant's assistant.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just inputting his CRMs. I was just putting his information in and helping with the marketing, like going on FedEx runs and Starbucks.
Yeah, I hear you. It was assisting. So that's it, because most realtors you run into, they come from sales or from some kind of like bartenders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From kind of customer service or previous sales. So just to go medicine to real estate, that's
straight into sales.
That's wild.
It was, and I reached out I had a friend who was doing real estate in Florida. So I reached out to her, and she kind of like gave me direction as far as like, she sold me on this like marketing person who helps you learn how to market. And then from there, I don't know, I just started working on getting licensed and then finding brokerages. And
that's awesome.
Do you remember some of the advice that she gave you, like before becoming a real estate agent? Did she like say anything like, yo, you're probably not going to make money the first year?
She didn't. She made it very she painted a pretty scene. The person who did give me that reality check was, I reached out to that broker that I worked with before. He's multi-million dollar broker up in Compass. But he's a family friend.
Okay.
So I asked him for advice, and there were a couple things that he said. Number one, he offered me proper property management first, because he did say that you're not going to make money until you sell. He recommended I focus on like a niche, like my people were millennials, we're all buying first-time home buyers.
Yep.
Focus on that, focus on the area. And then it was kind of like a backhanded slap comment, but he then said, because a millionaire is not going to buy a house from you right now because you're so young. They're not going to take you seriously. So focus on your people. And yeah, I mean, that's where.
How did you feel when he said that?
I mean, I just wanted to prove him wrong.
I think I would be in the same. I would feel the same way. Yeah. I'd be like, hold my beer, watch this.
Yeah.
Maybe he said it wrong.
Yeah. There was definitely good intention behind it. He was just trying to keep it real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel that with anybody who comes to me and asks me about being interested in the business, I'll tell them the nice stuff, but I also tell them, look, the reality is this.
Yeah.
Don't get rid of your pay just yet.
Of course. Yeah, we've had a couple episodes where we talked about that. Like if we could give a piece of advice to new realtors or new real estate agents that want to get into the business, what to expect. Yeah. Because I know that I was sharing with Renee when I first got into the business, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Right. I was lucky enough that, you know, he I don't know what he saw in me, but he was like, hey, like, you know, come to my house. Let's talk how we can do something for your business. Yeah. And then, yeah, you know, if I for sure know that if I wouldn't have went under Renee's wing, I wouldn't be in real estate anymore. Probably not. Like, you know, I probably would have left Argent and go join the big brokerage and join the team and let them suck all my money and just for the opportunity of.
But you learn a lot though.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for the opportunity of learning and then, you know, and suffering until like, you know, I catch a grip on it. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
You know what's cool? I was just kind of thinking about it. Like some fields are like gender dominated, right? Yeah. Let's say like in Meet the Fockers, they make fun of him because he's a nurse. That's kind of, but now I think that's changed a lot, right? But it's cool that real estate, it's not really seen that way, right? Like the men dominate or the women dominate or anything like that. It's like
some women are killers, bro.
I think the top people are women, bro. Yeah. Like in my experience, you know what I mean? The top brokers. So it's just amazing. Like it's a field where that's not really like an issue. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
It comes down to your sales power.
It comes down to you. That's the best part. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like people don't. I haven't had that experience where like people would discriminate, be like, "No, I'd rather deal with a woman in this case." Like I've never felt like that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. You probably never felt that. So I was just thinking. It just came to me right now. I don't know why it's random, but
it's
I'm
true,
like, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Because some industries are not like that. You see what I'm saying? So
right.
Yeah. So, Chris, based off what that broker told you, did you find everything that he told you to be true?
I mean, the advice on finding your niche was because I tend to, majority of my people happen to be first-time home buyers. As far as not being taken serious by them, you know what? I'll be honest, I haven't tackled that avenue just yet. I almost feel like I've been preparing myself intellectually until I finally get there. But I mean, my actually from Nick, that's going to be my first high baller sale. So I mean, I'm fully prepared. Honestly, at this point, it used to be you have to have confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for me, I am such a type A person that if I don't know something 100%, I can't sell you on my confidence or even on myself because I need to know everything. So now that I feel that, I mean, I'll work with agents and I have to teach them what they have to do, and I'm good. Like I'm set.
It makes you realize, like, okay, I know a little bit more than I thought I knew.
Oh yeah, and you don't realize that until I don't want to say you're comparing yourself, but like you're interacting with another agent and realizing, okay.
I've ran across that same problem.
Like, no, just yesterday I saw one of her videos and I was like, oh shit! Like Chris knows her shit. Like she knows. I mean, I didn't know that it was about the you were giving tips on if a couple has to separate.
Yeah.
Or
I saw that video.
To get a divorce or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that they could do the quick claim, but they would they would still be on the mortgage, but they wouldn't be entitled. I didn't know that though.
Yeah.
So I was like, knowledge.
Yeah.
I was like,
knowledge nugget right there.
You learn so much in title too.
Yeah. Oh, you have that side of it too. Yeah, you do have that experience.
You said if it wasn't for Renee that you would have left the business. For me, if it wasn't for KTL, I would have left the business.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have the title side, but I'm a closer and I'm learning and I'm seeing things happen behind the scenes. So I feel like a lot of agents, you don't really learn things until you're kind of, it's like a baptism by fire, honestly.
Yeah.
Or you're hearing, at least in our meetings, our sales meetings, they're able to teach us from other people's what they're going through. So at least you can learn that way. But for me, I'm learning what everyone on the title side, all the drama on that side. I'm learning.
Which there is drama.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm learning from that also. So
and it just helps you better service your clients because now you have that experience where you can avoid pitfalls.
Yeah.
Or or just the guidance, or just they can lean on your experience. Right. Whereas just not just an agent, like you also have the title side experience.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I look at it like you're gonna be, if not already, you're gonna be more valuable because you have that knowledge. Because I don't know a lot of agents that have experience or background in title.
Yeah.
That's something that's gonna. I feel like that's something that already separates you from a lot of agents.
Yeah.
And then because we all at some level have the same knowledge, right? Except for the agents, of course, that go above and beyond. Like we're taught our brokers to know a lot about the lending side.
Yeah, the financing.
The financing side. So it's like, because clients look at us as the one-stop shop. Like, about the quality, you're going to give me qualified, and that sort of thing. So it's good. That's amazing.
That is important to know because not a lot of agents know that either. A lot of agents, I remember with the big brokerage that I started out with, the mentor that I had, everything was, oh, you don't deal with their finances. Don't entertain that. Just send them to the lender and they'll deal with it. I wasn't comfortable with that. But that's how a lot of agents are trained is you don't need to worry about the financing stuff. You don't need to worry about the title stuff, all the legalities and all of that. Just let someone else handle that. That's not your job.
Yeah. Well, my experience, right? It's just, what client are you servicing?
Yeah.
Right. Because, usually if you're servicing, let's say, college graduates, professionals, they're going to do their own thing online and, you know what I mean? Or they've been through this before or whatever, right? So when you deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, right, you have to know more about the financing side because you got to go find the money, different options, the way to get the deal done, right? So it's all, like you said, it's kind of your niche, right? So because of our niche, we have to be experts on the financing side too, right? Because we can advise, hey, this, that, right, to first-time home buyers. So I think it all depends. You know what I mean? Like what level of client.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt to know any of that.
I think it's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's amazing.
For me, I'll tell you, it feels good. Like I'm not gonna obviously not be able to answer some complicated financing question, but the average question that people have, I feel good when I'm able to not have to call a lender, just answer it for them right then and there. That kind of sets you, as what you're doing type of thing.
Right.
So
sets you apart from other agents.
Exactly.
To at least answer
common
questions.
Yeah. So what do you think to kind of pivot, right? Because we were talking about that Renee saw a video of yours on social media. What caused you to start doing social? First of all, were you doing anything on social media related to real estate before, or did you just start, or what is your whole social media journey?
And what's the ad? Drop the ad.
Yeah, drop the ad so people, our viewers can follow you.
Sure. My Instagram is cdonis.realtor, and then my TikTok is Cridonis. It's CRIDONIS.realtor.
Okay.
The reason being is because I was getting rid of the Cri and I was sad about it. But anyways,
we'll tag you too.
Yeah, we'll put it right there.
Thank you. What got me started? I think for a while I wanted to, but it's a lot of things to be behind a camera. You get very awkward. I was never comfortable with it. And then once I finally stopped being shy, it was more of how do you even do this? How does everything work? For me, really, it's just wanting to be on top of mind. So even if you're not buying right now, you remember, oh, I remember that girl who's talking about real estate, or that funny video. I remember. Let me reach out to that person. That's really why I do it. But I just started. I mean, I see funny real estate stuff all over my TikTok, and it's relatable. And
you're like, I can do that.
See, I think she has a sensible approach, so I think she'll actually be very successful at that because she's doing it from hey, I'm just gonna stay top of mind. Like I'm just gonna bring value.
Yeah.
As we've had people in here. They go, I want to go viral.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, you know how hard it is to go viral, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so or oh man, I only got 13 views on my last video. What's the point of doing these things? Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's all in the motivation. What's behind it, right? Are you doing it for views?
Yeah.
You're doing it for that dopamine hit? That's gonna run out eventually. That's gonna fade out. You know what I mean? As opposed to a strategy like, hey, look, I'm just gonna stay consistent and top of mind, and eventually that'll produce. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then also educating. I mean, some of my videos are educate. I mean, I try to make them more, but the more interactions I get are the funny. The humor ones. People like to laugh.
Yeah. I seen those. I'm like, I don't know if I could do those videos. So for that, you got it.
It's great because I actually yesterday I pick a day and I try to knock out lots of videos, and then I'll focus on editing on another day.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just starting out, so I don't have that many. But yesterday I was on a roll and I was doing a couple. It's when you look back at it, it's hard not to laugh at yourself, and even like you don't even realize how you express your face until you're watching yourself.
Yeah.
So all of that to me is just behind the scenes stuff that's just you never think of until you have to do all this. It's
Tell me about it. So tell me, what is your process for creating content? Like, do you script your videos? Do you do your research and like talk about that process? Because I know like for me it depends on the type of video that I'm making.
Yeah.
So I go about the same approach as like you said, I pick a day where I just sit down and jot down the ideas of the videos I want to do. Mm-hmm. And if I know it off the top, I'll script it. If not, I'll just do talking points and then I'll film it. And then if I have time, I'll edit. But if not, I'll have a separate day for editing because I'll be honest, that's the most time consuming part.
Yeah.
So what is your process of coming up with content?
I usually, if I find a topic interesting, I'll make notes of it. I have a list of video ideas of what I can educate people on without giving everything away, because you want them to be able to listen to something, because they're not going to listen there for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
And then the day that I record, the day before, or at least days before, I'll think of a script, or I'll try to do my research. I'll find my script, and then I'll record on a specific day. It'll take me many, many, many tries.
Oh, you're like me?
In some of my videos,
are you a perfectionist?
Yes.
Has that kept you from going, you know what, I'm not even putting anything out before? Like
Renee will
I'll stop. Like I'll be like, you know what, I'm done with it. Like after sitting there for like 15, 20 minutes.
I lied to you. Now I've seen Renee sit there for about like 10, 15 minutes looking for the right music to put to his video.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
all that matters.
It's not that serious. Carlos, like, it's not that serious, bro.
But he's like, he's right. To him, it's like, it depends on the type of person you are. If you're a perfectionist, it's like, it has to be right.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not about being a perfectionist per se, right?
But you have a vision in mind of what you want the video to.
That's what it is. It's more about like, hey, I have something. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like on Instagram, I try to do creative stuff, not just house stuff, and you know what I mean. So when I do creative stuff, like, and let the creative juices flow, it's more about that. Like, I'm wrapped up in the moment, and I want it to kind of be how it is in my mind. You know what I mean? But it's not about getting it perfect for me per se. But I know some people are just perfectionists. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what kind of separates everybody who makes content from another. Because, like, I teach the a little small social media class at the office. So, and I tell them, I'm like, look, if I sat down here and I told you guys, hey, come up, today we're gonna film a video on tips for first-time home buyers, right? What do you guys think would separate your video from your video from your video? Because it's all the same information, right?
Crucial.
Your personality, your energy, how you deliver that message, right?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. That's what's gonna separate Donna's from Renee from Carlos. So it's like that, right? And so that everybody develops their own style of video, right? You may be known for, your unique way of editing, and it's just your energy, your personality, what you bring. Like, that's what kind of resonates with people, and that's how you grow an audience. So that's it. And I tell them, they're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. But it's social media is not as easy as people make it out to see. Like, now that every time I scroll on social media and I look at real estate content, any type of content, I'm noticing that type of editing they do and what the production level. I'm like,
your eyes getting like more sophisticated.
Yeah, I'm like, this is hard. This is hard to. That would be a hard video to make. But you learn, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to relate to this. From every video you make, you learn something new.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then like from being in front of the camera so much, you'll start to notice little things like your facial expressions, like how you come across on a video. I'm like, damn. For me, it was like, damn, I sound so serious. Like I don't even smile. I'm like, I wouldn't watch this.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I got to change.
Right.
And there's been like little drastic changes from like the first video I made to the videos that I make now. I'm like, okay, and then it just comes down to keep doing it.
Right.
Eventually things will work out.
What do y'all think about that though? Social media and real estate, right? Because it's interesting.
Yeah.
So obviously it works, right? Like obviously it works, but not for everyone, right? And I mean it. And
I think honestly, I think it can work for everybody.
Yeah.
For anyone, you could be.
Okay, so when we
whatever age,
when we say works, okay, so that was what I was getting into, right? So when we say works, are we talking views and followers?
Good question.
Or are we talking, does it translate to business, like referrals?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So I've gotten people from IG and Facebook and stuff like that. But how can I put it? It's not as consistent. I'm not a consistent social media person either though, right? So I'm just like, man, what would be the ratio? Like, are people really getting referrals from this, or is it more like Donna's approach, like, top of mind, and then eventually they come around? Like, what do you guys think? You guys think that? So, I guess what I'm trying to ask, I guess you answered it. Do you think the average agent can just jump on and be consistent and create an audience? Like,
I think it's a lot. I mean, it's very time consuming, so you have to put a lot of thought and energy and time into it. So if you're able to keep that up while still doing your job, then I don't see why not.
Yeah. So there's a couple of factors that I've from listening to all this information and people talk about how to be successful on social media, not just for realtors, but just in general. Right?
Yeah.
It's a couple of things, right? Consistency is one of the biggest things, and then it comes down to creativity level, like the information that you're putting out. Obviously, if you're not putting out good information or people don't find value in it, they're not gonna stick around or give you that like or comment or there's a formula, right? And it depends if you're doing long form or short form, because the YouTube game is different from the Instagram, TikTok game. Yeah, it's different. It's two different approaches.
You learn that, yeah.
So it's not just like you have to be intentional about it. Like if you just take it as like, I'll post once in a while, then my best advice is don't do it at all.
Right.
You have to have, just like, us as realtors, if you want to crush it in business, like you have to, if you want to set a time for calling people, for prospecting, for setting appointments, all these things, right? You're intentional about it.
Right.
I tell people the same thing. You have to be intentional about creating content. Set a day and take it as it's part of your job, right? And it's a long game, but it's a way of it can be a sustainable way, if you do it correctly, of generating leads. And it all comes down to the strategies that you use, right? If you want to, and in real estate, you guys know you don't need hundreds of thousands of views to get a lot of business. If you create one video, for example, a property tour video or a neighborhood tour, right? I see those a lot on YouTube. I'm starting to see those a lot on YouTube. It's like, who do you think is watching neighborhood tours or community tours from real estate agents, right? And I asked this question in my class last week, and they were like, oh, probably somebody who's coming from out of town that wants to get an idea of what that area looks like. And there, people who are tech savvy, I tell them, look, YouTube is a search engine, just like Google is.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
People are going on YouTube looking for, to get an idea. If I'm moving from California to Maryland, I want to get an idea of, and I've never seen Maryland. I want to get an idea of what Maryland looks like. Yeah. What can I expect, right?
What part would be similar to what I know here?
So I'm looking for, I'm typing in the search bar, what is it like to live in Maryland? Yeah. And if I want to niche down, what is it like to live in Silver Spring, Maryland? And if I see Chris Donis neighborhood tours, Chris Donna's property tours, Chris Donna's 10 tips.
Probably gonna reach out to Chris Donna.
I'm probably gonna reach out to Chris Donna.
Yeah.
Hey Chris, I'm thinking about moving to Silver Spring, Maryland. Like, I'm already pre-approved. This is what I want. Like, can you help me out, or can you direct me to?
Yeah. So to go a little deeper, I guess, in my question, I didn't phrase it correctly. Okay, I say this to say this, right? When I look at a realtor video, that's getting good numbers or whatever, I look at it, and most of the people that are liking it or whatever are other realtors. You see what I'm saying? So that's where I'm like, So in my opinion, like conspiracy theory wise, right now it's at that stage where we're kind of playing around with these platforms because social media is relatively new, right? Yeah. So, in my opinion, eventually, just like everything else in the United States, real estate's going to become like a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different corporation type thing. You know what I mean? Eventually, right? We're far from that. But I think the individual agents will still be around, but only the ones that truly have platforms, like big following, huge following platforms. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think in that sense, to start now and start growing your audience eventually, I think, like I said, this is my theory, my conspiracy theory. So to start growing your audience and being big on all the platforms now, that's kind of what you want to be doing eventually. Because eventually I think that's just where people are going to find you, like online and on social media.
I 100% agree. Yeah. Because it's like you told me before, I was like, nowadays when people are looking for a good place to eat, or they're looking for a barber, or they're looking for a good plumber, whatever, what is the first thing they go? They Google it, right?
I go to TikTok and Google.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And then just to take a step further, people are doing that too. They'll see if you have a TikTok page, because that's people's bread and butter right now. TikTok is the platform of choice right now. Yeah. It's so huge, and it's like.
It's easy to gain a following too.
Yeah, the algorithm.
It's easier than the other platforms.
Yeah, the algorithm from Instagram to TikTok, and TikTok is more favorable to the little guy. Yeah, right. It'll put you more in front of more people. Instagram is just like who's following you. That's who's gonna put you in front of. And if the people who follow you don't interact with your stuff, then it's going to be hard for you, for Instagram to push your content out. So that's the difference, right? TikTok is more like, we're going to expose you to a set amount of people, and depending on the amount of people that interact with that video, we're going to keep on pushing you and keep on pushing you. Right. That's how, the algorithm kind of works. Right. But
so Chris, I have a question for you. So like where are you in your business, or where do you see yourself like in 5 years? And I mean this, like, are you right now working towards building a team, maybe being a broker, or you just want to be like, a top agent in the office? Like where's your head right now as far as your business and where you're going?
That's a great question. I think for right now, I'm still just working on building myself, building my clientele. Eventually, I would love to be able to kind of run my own team, have my own, because where I'm at, there's not many. I feel like there's so much saturation in Montgomery County, and I used to live there, so I lots of my clients are there. But now where I'm at is Annapolis, and there is a huge Latino population.
Untapped.
Yeah. So there's so much potential for growth over there that I want to take advantage of that. But right now, it's just focusing on building myself, like I said, and going from there, and eventually I'll get to where I need to go. It's very Jesus take the wheel, because I feel like every time I make plans,
that's a good plan.
It's the best plan.
Jesus, what does it say? You make a plan and God laughs. Yeah. So at this point,
that's good. I've never heard that one.
Really? You never heard that one? Yeah. Tell me, what is it? Tell God your plans and watch him laugh. Or like that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, that's good though.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, so I could definitely see it though. The Donna's team.
Yeah.
That's kind of catchy. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I would. That's good. No, but I think we're all in. I think we talked before we were brainstorming. We wanted to talk about our first deals or our most memorable deals.
Okay.
So I think that's a good segue, right?
Okay.
So Who wants to start?
I guess I started, so I'll finish.
Yeah. So you were telling it. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys play poker, right? So this is probably only relevant to people that play poker. But in poker, you'll have many wins, right? You'll win a lot. But for some reason, what sticks to you the most are your losses.
Oh yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I've had many wins in real estate, right? But one of my biggest losses, I could say, or one of my most bittersweet moments, right? For at that time, it was like a $10,000 check, and at that time, that was like the biggest check I've ever had in my life, basically, right? But at the table, the clients are just mad at me. You know what I mean? They were just, I didn't do anything. The lender I recommended them to dropped the ball, right? And just gave them they had a horrible experience, I guess, with this lender. And I was too naive and too new, too green enough to know it. Right. At that time, I was more like commission breath. Like, I'm just worried about that check. Yeah. Right. But it was one of the most bittersweet moments because I'm getting like the best pay I've ever got for my work before. But the clients weren't happy. Like, I knew, like, there's no way, like, they're coming to the client appreciation party or, you know what I mean? Or
forget about the carne asada.
Yeah. Forget about a referral. Like, I already knew it. Like, it was just, and that. To me, it's like, it still sticks with me today, man. So it's like, I never want to feel that again. Because it feels like, even though I, in my heart of hearts, know I earned that money and I helped them the best I could. And if I've never reached out to them, but if they talk to me right now, they'd be like, thank you, because they made a great purchase at the time. But it was just, the experience they had with the lender. And that's when I knew, okay, the lender reflects on me. You see what I'm saying? Because I introduced them to them. So whatever the lender does, whatever experience they have, reflects back on me. Right. But that was one of the most bittersweet moments for me in real estate. So like I said, many wins, but that loss for some reason just sticks with me. And I think it has kept me focused on delivering a good experience all around to my clients. You know what I mean?
Yeah, who you work with matters.
Yeah.
Who you put in front of them.
Definitely.
You're basically the face of the transaction. So
yeah, for most transactions, that's how it is. Like, I tell these guys, you're the quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because they didn't have the best experience with the lender, and you say he dropped the ball on how much you made. Is that how they found out how much you made off the? Because you said they got mad because they found out how much you made, right?
No.
Or was it the experience?
No. Just the experience they had. No, they weren't worried about what I was making or whatever. It was just more, like I said, they were at the table. At the table, it's usually, hey, we did it. Like, congratulations, like, great moment and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Taking pictures, testimonials, things like that. This wasn't it. This was like, man, like, I showed up, just to do my responsibility of my job, but they didn't want me there. You know what I mean? Dang. And it's too late. It's closing. Like, they're going to buy the house.
So what was your biggest takeaway from it?
Who you work with matters. You know what I mean? And know that. And that's what I'm saying. Know that you're the quarterback. Like, this reflects on you. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter that you place the ball perfectly. And if they drop the catch, like, it's going to reflect back on the quarterback. You know what I mean? And that's, so what I tell you, inspect what you expect. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Chris, your turn.
Oh gosh, I don't think there's enough time.
Well, remember, it's most memorable, right? So it could be a positive.
It could be the most memorable, or like,
I'm just crazy, so I went negative, but it could be a positive. Like,
it could be good or bad, or
the first one,
or your first deal.
Yeah. No, mine happens to be, so it wasn't the first deal who closed, but it was my first client ever. That led me to actually where I'm at now. But I started with, it was a relative of a college friend who was referred to me, who had just gone through a divorce. So she had trouble trusting in me, but also knew that I was new. So very understandable. I was with another brokerage, the one that I started out with. It was a very big brokerage. I was working with a mentor, and I'm not sure if did you guys start with a big broker that way?
I started a small brokerage, but I had a mentor, but it wasn't through the brokerage. It was just someone that I knew there that mentored me.
Okay. Yeah. And they actually, did you feel that you learned a lot from that?
In his own way, he taught me. Yeah. It wouldn't have been the way I teach people, but yeah. It was more like he, threw me to the fire.
Yeah. Baptism by fire. I think that's how you learn.
Yeah. For me, it was brief. So when I first got licensed, so Arjun was my second brokerage. Okay. Since I got licensed, so the first brokerage I joined, it was because my friend, the realtor who sold my brother his house, he's like he has a good relationship with his mom, which is a lender. So he told me, he was like, hey, look, I can connect you with him. He can probably take you under his wing. And so at that time, I didn't know what crushing it in real estate was until, like, now that I know, I look back, I'm like, he was crushing it. Still is, by the way.
Yeah.
So he told me, like, cool, great dude, amazing dude. Shout out to him. He knows who he is. And he, his situation was that on his own, he was doing good. Because his mom's has a huge list of clients, and she just gives it to him. So they work in the team. They do great, right? So he's closing like 50 deals a year, and when he told me this, so I joined. I went ahead and, long story short, I joined his brokerage. As soon as I joined, I didn't feel the energy. Like, I felt like I was fresh meat, and I felt like it was a hostile environment. Like, when somebody joins Argent, everybody greets you. It's like, hey, welcome to the team. Like, it feels very welcoming, very warm. There, nothing. I didn't meet the broker until, like, I never met the broker, matter of fact. And it was a hard just getting a phone call from him or a text reply from him. So I didn't like that at all. And then, like, the dude that took me under his wing, he ended up telling me, he was like, hey, look, I feel like I outgrew this company already, so I'm gonna go to Compass now. And he was like, unfortunately, you can't come with me because Compass, they have. I was fresh, I was new, I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just like there holding like. Like, what now?
What now?
Yeah.
That
So
sucks,
and then this is where I thank God. God has, like, like you said, you make plans and God laughs at you. At that time, Paula called me. I got a call from Paula, and I had gotten calls from other brokerages before that, but something to do, like, she brought up God in the conversation. And she was just like, look, I think God put me in your path for a reason. Come into the office, talk to me, and just like I told you, I was like, at that time I had just told God I was ready to get out of real estate. I was just like threw in the towel. And I came in, interviewed Paula, and she was just like, that same day she signed me up, and she was just like, the conversation, I was like, look, this sounds like. And then I had a conversation with Matt, and you know how Matt is. Matt closed me. I was just like, I was sold, and I don't regret it. So that's how I landed at Argent.
So the mentor that I had was working with other agents also, so she was mentoring, so she was busy. And then the time, I remember there was even one specific time where I asked my manager, okay, where do I learn how to do this? Like, what do I do? I would go to every single course that they would offer, and it was all just on marketing. How do you get leads? How do you get people? And that was great, but what happens after? When they meet with you, what do you talk about? What are the steps?
What do they sign?
Yeah, so I had met with her one-on-one, and what they had was kind of like a little roadmap of what you do. And she said, you just read this off, you have them sign your documents, and then you go show them houses. But for me, that wasn't enough. Either way, I'm starting with this client. I did the whole spiel. She signed everything with me that first day. We start to look at houses, and mind you, I was so new. I was even driving with her in the car, showing her houses, not knowing that we could just meet at the house and then you go do your own thing.
You were probably trained to do that.
She didn't even tell me what to do. I was like, I guess this is what they did, because I had an aunt who was in real estate. Okay. And I remember back in the day, people would rent together.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah.
I was like, I'll come pick you up.
Yeah. What? Full service.
How awkward was that car ride?
It wasn't awkward at all, actually.
That gives you more time to talk, actually.
Okay.
I've done it. By request.
I feel like that would be awkward.
I thought so at first.
By request.
Like, going into it, like, if we've only like had limited interactions, it will kind of be that. There's only but so many things you can talk about with a stranger. At least that's how I look at it. I would be like.
But that's where your personality has to shine.
True.
Here. And everything was going well. She ended up putting an offer on a house that I knew was going to be hard, because there was a hole in the living room. It was a hot mess, but she liked the living room. You can't tell people what to put an offer on. You can only recommend them to go whichever way. But we ended up coming out of that one from the inspection. But even that inspection was also a baptism by fire. First of all, the listing agent didn't tell the agent, the sellers that we were coming.
Oh, so they were there?
They work overnight shifts, or they were. We showed up at like 9:00. and they weren't opening the door.
You're set up for
it
success.
was an inspector, the buyer, and me just waiting there. And then when we finally come in, the dude does not leave. Homeboy is giving my buyer a tour around the house.
Yeah, that's what they do.
What is going on
Yeah,
here?
that's what they do.
And when I tell you, they didn't have time to prepare because they didn't know we were coming. They had in the shower, it was a bucket. They were showering from a bucket of water with a cup. This is, of course, not something we saw in the open house, and it was just a hot mess. And I'm just like terrified, calling my mentor, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
We ended up getting out of that one because we had the inspection with the right to terminate. Mm-hmm. We go and find another house. We put an offer on. During this time, so she had divorced, and in the divorce decree, she had won a house. So she was getting passive income from that, from the rental, right? She was depositing the checks. She wasn't on title, though. So legally, she was still a first-time home buyer. But because we mentioned that fact, I guess the lender at the time that was associated with the broker wasn't qualifying her as a first-time, so she was paying full price. Bank of America happened to be her bank where she was depositing those checks. And in that moment, someone had sold her on the first-time home buying program that they offered. When she had mentioned this to me, my mentor and the lender and the manager were recommending that I tell her not to work with Bank of America because they had a reputation for not closing on time. So they were sparking some fear into me.
Yeah.
So I told her that. And when we finally went under contract, she decided, you know what, I think I want to give it a shot. We were already on the contract. Mind you, we had 4 weeks. A week into it, she decides to switch to Bank of America.
Okay.
Wow.
And mind you, this is my first client. It's in Spanish. At that time, when I tell you my business Spanish was just not there. So my choice of words could have been a lot better. And I said something that she mistook or misunderstood, or maybe I just didn't say it correctly. There's a lack of communication there. She got offended. She stopped answering my calls.
Oh, wow.
She called the manager and complained, but thought she couldn't leave me. So she stayed with me. So now it's the manager who is in the middle between us. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm telling you, I cried tears because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I said.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
And the manager, her way of consoling her was to tell her, it's okay, go to Bank of America, do whatever you want to do. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Worst thing ever, because she switches to Bank of America with 3 weeks left. And when I tell you, I don't know if you've ever used Bank of America, they have one person who is a Spanish-speaking lender who works from North Carolina. He doesn't answer his calls. He doesn't answer an email. I had no idea what was going on. We get to the closing. Well, final walkthrough, she hates the house. She had a bad experience with the lender.
Oh, my God.
She hates the house. We get to closing. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Closing happened to be at KTL.
Are you serious?
Yes. Closing to win the offer, people say, this is my preferred company. This was the third.
So the listing agent was an Argent agent?
No, the listing agent was
just
random,
okay.
but this was their third time being under contract for this house. And they had, I guess, on the second try,
used KTL. They liked KTL,
so they wanted to just stay with KTL. And we were like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Interesting.
So we went with KTL. I'm at the table, and I remember Matt would keep walking by, and he keeps saying, hi, introducing himself.
Doing mad things.
And Steve-O would come and talk to me, and he'd be like, the lender's not answering. We don't have clear to close. We don't know what's going on. I don't know who to call. And we get to the table. Basically, she had deposited a check that said rent on it. And that was her downfall because they couldn't qualify her as a first-time home buyer anymore. She didn't qualify for that program anymore, so the deal fell through.
Yeah, that's just getting rent. Yeah.
Steve calls Matt over to the office and tells him the situation and tells him, please help her. She doesn't know what's going on. Matt happened to have a connect with Bank of America who was able to investigate what actually happened. That's the reason why we knew why it didn't go through. It wasn't because the lender told us. When I tell you I was in that office until 10 o'clock with Matt, Matt was giving me a speech, like write this down, mija. You're going to say this to the lender. You're going to say this to your
Matt,
buyer.
bro.
Yeah, shout outs to Matt, man.
You're going to say this to the agent. And when I tell you, the agent was old school Middle Eastern Persian probably. Okay. So very machista.
Yeah.
And Matt was like, "This is the kind of man you're gonna encounter. He's gonna be mad, especially because he's desperate. Because he had at some point, this is his third attempt, and he was relying on this money so that he could buy a house. So he needed that check. So when I get him on the phone, and I tell you, he was yelling. I've never had an agent yell at me so much. I had him on mute, and Matt was like laughing, and he was like, "Okay, tell him this." I get him off of mute, and I'd be like, yeah. I mean, Matt poured me a glass of tequila that night, and he was just, not only was he helping me with my deal, but he was also talking to me about how. And basically
how the game works.
And selling me on working with Argent because I at that point was so traumatized from everything. I was like, what difference is it going to make changing brokerage?
Right.
But after seeing that all he did, that's all he had to do. Was like, I had learned more in those 3 hours than I had learned in the 6 months that I was with that brokerage. So I was like, okay, where do I sign up? Let's go. Let's do this. He also saved that client from walking away. Because she, at that point, after being burnt by all of that, was not wanting to buy a house. He sat with her and we talked, and he convinced her to at least keep her mind open. And sure enough, a few weeks later, she reached out saying, "I like this house. Let's go check it out." That ended up being.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Big shout out to Matt.
So who you work with matters.
1,000%.
1,000%.
No, but I think that's I think a lot of if you talk to a lot of agents, I think it's few agents that go, "Yeah, I'm still with the first brokerage I ever signed up with, and it all worked out great." Like that's not really how it goes usually.
Yeah.
Usually most agents go, "No, I learned this here, I moved here, and I learned this here," and it takes a couple different brokerages to kind of find the right fit.
Well, what do you guys think are some of the, I say, pain points or some of the things that agents should take into account where they should consider, like, oh, maybe I should consider going to a different brokerage or exploring their options, right? What are some of the things that, or some of the issues that agents should be on the lookout when they encounter them?
Well, I would say like what Donna said at the beginning, where they were kind of just steamrolling her and basically not looking out for the client. Right. So off the top, if
red flag.
Yeah, red flag. If the best interest is not the client, then that gives me a big indication that's probably not where I want to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I would say that, you know.
Yeah. I'd say level of education too.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I think and I can speak from my own perspective too, going into the business, you don't really know what to look for in a brokerage. For me, my big thing was who's going to train me the most, who's going to give me the most knowledge, but also who is going to pay me. And I think lots of agents, their first thing is, okay, where do I get the most split?
Yeah.
And oftentimes that doesn't really matter, because if you get 97% or 100% commission out of nothing, it's still nothing. You know? So I would say focus on, I mean, I would probably try to interview like an agent and see, because if you, where I came from, it was all older generation. There was no one in the office. There was no culture. Granted, it was right after the pandemic, so I understood. But at the same time, the people that I did meet were they weren't up to date current with what
they're so stuck in the old ways.
Yes, and they also weren't like you said, there was no culture. There was no, hi, introducing yourselves. I would go up to people and I'd feel weird, and I didn't know.
They looked at you like competition or like another person that's going to try to take deals away.
Right. And that's not to say that Argent's the only place that you find it. I've
of course
been with other agents before that have, showed me their ropes, and they work with big companies or brokerages, but they're already established.
Yeah.
So for me, I would really look into. It depends on what you're looking for. For me, it was a big thing on culture. It was a big thing on training, and then obviously everything else comes.
But I think in that you delivered a good nugget, which is, if once you sit down with the broker, maybe you want to sit down with an agent that works in that brokerage, take them out to lunch. Hey, let me buy you lunch. I just want to, talk to you about your brokerage. How do you operate? Or,
how long you been here?
Yeah, what do you think about?
What made you come here?
Oh, I'm thinking of leaving myself. Oh, there you go. You know what I mean? I mean, you never know. So I think that's a great nugget, Donis, right there for someone that's looking into it. And I always say don't. Because I've always, I came from the corporate world, and you go in and they interview you, right? And I think for agents, they have to understand that no, the brokerage needs you, so you need to interview the broker. You know what I mean? But I think it takes some experience to feel that confidence that you're interviewing the broker or whatnot. But that's really what it is, though. You're interviewing the broker. You know what I mean?
Right, but often with those big companies, you don't even meet the broker.
Sometimes you can't.
You're just with the manager.
Yeah, sometimes just with the office manager or something like that. That could be a red flag within itself. You know what I mean? Do you have access to a broker? Or is
direct access?
Yeah,
like he is on my speed. He's one of my favorites on my phone.
Who's that?
Matt.
Oh, Matt. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Matt's a resource, man. More than a broker, like he's a friend. He's a resource. He's a good broker. He's like I always tell him, man. For being 100% house shop or whatever, they provide an enormous amount of value. You know what I mean, to the agents. So I think that goes hand in hand too. What you said, agents are looking for the best splits at first. I would say that it's just it's logical if they're not keeping, or if a brokerage is not really seeing any of the money that you're producing, they're not really going to invest a lot into you. You know what I mean? That's just kind of logical. And if they're letting you keep, or like I said, if if they are taking some of your money, then you gauge, okay, what kind of value am I getting? Am I getting really good training? You know what I mean? And is there the culture that I want here or whatnot? So when you start though, like in any other thing, I think you have to understand in real estate, you're going to have to pay your dues. Yeah. I think that story was about paying your dues. Your story was about paying dues. You know what I mean? So in real estate, you're going to have to pay your dues. So it's not like you're just going to come in and it's hard. I was talking about Matt and Juan the other day because they were asking me what kind of topics should we talk about, to agents or newer agents or whatever. And I was telling him that, I'll teach like a psychology 101 class.
That's a big one
for agents because when you first start out, depending where you came from, usually people come from 9 to 5s, right? And you want it structured that way. And usually at a 9 to 5 job, if it's corporate, there'll be a video or some videos, right? And then there'll be a manual. And usually you can resolve many of the problems you're going to have from the manual, from the training you got, right? And real estate doesn't work that way. So we were talking with Juan, like the really only way is to go through it. And then even once you go through that deal and that whole ordeal, that was that unique deal. The next deal is not going to be like the last one.
Yeah, you're telling me.
And that's why it's so hard in real estate to tell somebody, okay, let me train you on everything that you're about. No, you can't. Right. You know what I mean? You kind of got to go through it. And when it's happening, it's like, okay, let me help you cross that bridge, right? Yeah. That's kind of how real estate works. So
it's a baptism by fire.
Yeah. I was telling Matt and Juan my story of my first mentor where I was excited and they're like, let me write the clients, okay, let's make an offer. And I'm like, okay, awesome. You know what I mean? And then I go to my mentor. I'm like, okay, I got him to this point. Like, help me write this offer. And he's like, no, you go write it. And I'm like, but I've never written an offer. He's like,
crazy.
He's like, congratulations, go write it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, in my mind, I was like, man, fuck this guy. Like, I picked the wrong guy. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm doing all this work to get the client. And now he's like, I'm not even helping you write an offer.
Dude, my mentor, she didn't explain the contract. And it's funny because Matt always calls us out and asks us, okay, who goes through the contract with us? And a lot of agents don't. Yeah. I happen to always, because that's the way. When I started, I was doing one-on-ones with Matt. So he was teaching me everything about. So anyways, but I remember specifically my first time writing a contract, she would just tell me, okay, in this blank you put this much, in this blank you put this much.
But not why.
Right. And I would ask, okay, why? Even for, say she was pre-approved for 300, she was like, okay, but you're going to show her houses in the 350s. And I'm thinking, but why? And she couldn't explain why.
That math isn't mathing.
Right. Things like that, like, yeah.
Yeah. So then I got really mad at the guy. And I was like, okay, well, I got to get it done, right? Like the client, I'm a professional, I'm licensed. Like, let me do this thing. So I did it. And then I go to him, I'm like, look, I did it. And he goes, okay, let's sit down now. And he's like, okay, this is what you did wrong. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and then I kind of understood from his perspective, like, you kind of, I have to kind of mess up so he can teach me what not to do next time.
So
that's, he can't teach me the whole thing at once.
So that's where you get your way of teaching me.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Is that what you do?
Yeah. I tell him, go write it. Like, you know what I mean? And it's scary, and I know it's scary, but it's a way that, like, kind of, you know, I learned, okay, I got rid of my fear. Yeah. Number one, you know, and number two, okay, now let's go back. Because it is true, though. Like, how am I going to prepare you for everything on that contract? You know what I mean? It's kind of go through it, and then I'll explain to you what you did wrong, and you keep learning from that and learning from that.
Add to that.
But I hated his approach, though.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I would say that the way I looked at that was he might have did that to kind of understand where you're coming from,
That's
your approach,
or where you're at, right?
Your approach of it. Like, you know, like what made you put that right there, that information there, and then that kind of gauge.
He wasn't big on. I'm like, you know me, I'm big on paperwork, right? Like you even said, like, you've gotten compliments from other agents about your paperwork, you know what I mean, and that feels good, like, you know what I mean, that feels good to me because, like, you know, I train them, so. But that I'm big on paperwork because at the end of the day, he said none of that's gonna matter. What's in writing?
That's what speaks for you.
Yeah. So I'm like, doesn't matter what you talk about, what you text me. Like, the contract has to be right.
Yeah, I've won 2 offers because of the way we structured the offers. Two deals. Yeah,
that matters.
It matters. To me, it matters when I'm listing it.
Sure.
There's nothing better than the agent calling me. She's like, "Hey, look, we had a couple offers that, you know, kind of the same thing that you offer, but I was like, the reason why we went with you, it was because your offer is clean. Your offer is the way it's structured. Yeah. And you don't see a lot of that in from other realtors." I was like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, it's how people are trained. You know what I mean? So I will tell you, he wasn't my mentor. He wasn't really a paperwork guy. He didn't really care. Like, he was like, "Oh, we'll fix it later," kind of thing. You know what I mean? And I have a little bit of that too. But you know, everybody has a different way of, like, I guess, trading. You know what I mean? But real estate's tough.
There's no
instruction manual.
One way.
Yeah. All right, man. Well.
I got to tell you the story about my neighbor.
Oh, go for it.
Yes.
Let's wrap it up with the neighbor story.
So I helped sell my neighbor's house because where I live happens to be where lots of military people are. Okay. So I can't get too attached, unfortunately, because they leave me.
They leave.
So my neighbors were, they actually went out to Vegas. The people coming in were also in the military. And the settlement company that they used, they were requiring all of us to be present, versus some allow you to do split settlements. So I was able to meet the buyers, aka my potential neighbors, or not potential because they were closing, my new neighbors. I didn't tell them that I was their neighbor. I just wanted to get a feel for their personality, right?
Sneaky.
So while we're there, you know, we're talking. They mentioned something about a litter box. So I was like, okay, they got pets. Let me ask them about pets because I happen to we have a dog. Okay. It's a small little dog. And they turned out, they said they had 3 cats, a dog, and a snake.
What?
Terrified of snakes. But I'm like, okay, I imagine I've heard of people who have snakes. They have these little things, and, you know,
they had a 20-foot python.
I shit you not. They were like, no, it's like 12 foot. It's a python. It's a python, a 12-foot python. I was like,
I was close.
Is the HOA allowed?
That's what my mother-in-law was like. You better call that condo association right now. When I told Patty the story, she was like, "You better check for holes in your attic."
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. What? Like, where does it sleep? How do you keep it? It's in like a 6x4 cage." I'm thinking, okay, you're gonna have it in a basement. No, it has its own little room, the little office by the window. I asked, has it ever escaped? They just casually were like, yeah, they were telling me a casual
happens
story.
All the time.
He likes to wander.
It happened to show up in the trash can one day, like on top of the trash one day. And I'm like, oh, that's wonderful.
I would have asked, have you ever woken up and it's wrapped around your neck?
I asked, well, how is it not eating your cat?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's true. That's true.
And she's like, well, my husband's optimistic that he won't do it. And but I
this is our third pair of cats.
Maybe this one it won't happen.
Yeah,
that's wild though.
They had even kept like the rats that they tried to feed it and it didn't eat it. They kept it as pets too. Luckily they didn't bring the rats, but
you have some interesting neighbors,
bro. And I ran into them one day when we were finally crossing. It was our first time crossing past, and they were like, "Weren't you the?" I was like, "Yeah, hi, I'm Chris." after chatting a little bit, I remember him saying, "Oh, but it's a skinny snake." So I'm thinking just a skinny, long snake. And I brought it up. I was like, "Okay, but you mentioned it was like a skinny." He was like, "Yeah, like this big, this big."
I mean, that is a smaller python.
But it's a man's hand, so my hands are smaller. Okay. I was like, "Oh, that's great." He's like, "I can bring it out if you want." I said,
Whoa,
"No,
yeah.
I think I'll pass. But thanks."
Come and pet it.
I'm good.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story.
Some interesting neighbors.
So wish me luck. We have a.
Are they cool people though? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not my old neighbors.
Yeah. They have pythons.
They could be better.
Now that's tough though. A snake. That's a
No,
crazy
we sleep
one.
with an axe under our bed now.
Yeah. Chop it up.
That's crazy.
Hey, that's an interesting one though. So they didn't find out you didn't tell them at the closing table. Right?
Yeah, I would have thought you would have told them like, hey, by the way, I'm your neighbor.
Yeah.
No, because I didn't want the agent and the title.
Oh, okay.
They all know the address.
I hear you.
I didn't
That
want all
makes
that
sense.
stuff out.
Gotcha.
I figured once I see you.
Yeah, that is personal. Yeah, you're right.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right.
makes sense.
Well, hey.
Well,
Great episode, man. Real funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed the conversation a lot. Chris, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, Chris.
Hopefully it won't be the last time.
Definitely not.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did and you stuck it out, we're a little bit over an hour, which is typical. I think this is the second longest one because Matt was the longest.
Of course.
Matt's is still going.
Matt holds the record. Yeah.
Matt's on volume 2 right
There's
now.
still a part
Season
2.
Season 2.
There's still a part 2 to Matt. So yeah, if you guys stuck around and you found and you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like, drop a comment, let us know what you guys want to hear next, and don't forget to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening, leave a review, and we will see you guys in the next episode.